What's poppin'? Welcome to a web-exclusive edition of Real Ones. I am Logan Murdoch. That is Howard Beck. We're here to play a little game we like to call Real or Fake, where we see if your favorite team is real or fake. Let's talk about the Orlando Magic, who have been the most pleasant surprise of the regular season. They are out of the play-in right now. They are in contention to get home court advantage in the Eastern Conference? Who would have thought that at the beginning of the season? The reason why has been Paolo Banchero, who has been great all throughout the regular season, who has become a budding superstar in the Orlando region. What can we expect, Howard, from Paolo in his first NBA postseason?
Can we just start with this real quick, Logan, because you kind of alluded to it? I mean, huge props to the Magic, because I thought at best, even with some really good young talent, specifically Paolo and obviously Franz Wagner, I thought, okay, this is a nice team on the rise, a lower seed, maybe a play-in, whatever. The fact that they've, again, at the time that we're having this conversation, flirting with potential home court advantage in the first round, I did not see that coming at all. I did not necessarily think they'd even be a lock to be one of the top six with the guaranteed playoff spot. And yeah, granted, some of that has been, the stuff that's happened over the course of the season. The Heat have been really banged up and they should have been a top six team. And the Sixers went without Joel Embiid for months and they should have been a top six team. But still, that the Magic are going to be finishing somewhere north of 45, 46 wins is a real accomplishment, because I don't think this is even a complete team yet. And they are very young. And so I want to just kind of say that first. It's been really impressive. And Paolo plays like a vet, but it's going to be his first playoff run. And to your point, teams are going to test him. They're, you're going to get, it's a playoff. So you're by definition getting just the best every night, and usually the best defenses. So I think teams are going to test him physically. I think they're going to make him make plays. They're not going to let him just, go to work as a scorer. They're going to make him be a playmaker as well. And that's the added responsibility that you eventually have to grow into as a young star in this league. Usually you become a young star because you can put up 25, 30 points at the blink of an eye. But what do you do when teams are actually scheming for you and, forcing you to make decisions in tight spaces? So I'm really intrigued to see that. What will Paolo Banchero, what will his composure look like when the heat is up at a whole other level, the spotlights are up to the brightest level?
It's always interesting for me to see the budding superstar play in their first postseason, because I think about Kevin Durant's first postseason, where he gets his ass kicked by Ron Artest and learns more, right? Or when, Steph plays against Andre Iguodala and just gets beaten or plays the Spurs. That kind of builds character and makes you find out about what your game actually is. So I'm curious to see that with Paolo. The thing about the Orlando Magic is they do have signature wins, a lot of signature wins against the Minnesotas, against the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are a team that is to be reckoned with. But how far do you think this team can go, given their lack of experience? Do you spot them around? Do you think that they can get to maybe the semifinals? How do you feel about the ceiling of this team? And how important is it for a team like this to learn during these things, because during these types of times, because they're not going to win a title. They're not in that mold yet. They just don't know how to do it. But what are you looking for that will give you a great look into their future in this postseason?
I don't expect they're going to win a series, even if they have home court advantage. I don't see them beating the Knicks. I don't see them beating, if they were to draw Cleveland or the Pacers, possibly even Miami. Again, as we have this conversation, all these things are still in play. They're just not beating any of those teams, Logan. They're not at their level. And the lack of playoff experience, I do think matters. The only guys on this Magic roster who were in the playoffs the last time the Magic made the playoffs in 2020 were Markelle Fultz and Jonathan Isaac, who did not even play in that particular postseason. So this is a really young group. They're still very new to all of this. So, we shouldn't have real high expectations for them. But I think we'll learn a little bit about, their two lead guys in Banchero and Wagner. Jonathan Isaac's had a phenomenal season defensively. It's been nice to see him healthy again and just wreaking havoc. So, we'll get to see glimpses of all that at a time when it matters more. And a lot of the country probably hasn't seen a lot of the Orlando Magic for good reason over the course of the last few years. So they'll get their moment to shine, but I think it's probably going to be.
Well, it's interesting with the Mavericks and their history, right? Because their history has been getting generational talent walking out the door. I feel like this is one of the first times, and knock on wood, that they are not having that, they're not having that prospect reeled over their head. What do you see out of this Wagner-Paolo partnership long term? Like, I think this is a really good opportunity for the world and the country, myself included, to watch more than 3 Magic games in a given week. What is this partnership like with Wagner and Paolo, and what is America going to see in the coming weeks from this group and the potential that they have going forward?
I mean, two guys with a lot of size who can both do a lot with the ball in their hands. And I think that's the key in today's NBA, right? It's your versatility at both ends of the court, your ability to guard multiple positions. And I think both these guys can, even if it's not necessarily their calling card yet, but the Magic have been pretty stout defensively as a team. And they're certainly part of that. By the way, I haven't even mentioned Jalen Suggs, who's also had kind of a revelation of a season as a top tiered defender. Offense still kind of coming around, but he doesn't have to do a lot on a team where Banchero and Wagner can combine for 40, 50 points a night. So, and they're young, man. I mean, Wagner and Banchero still in their very early 20s. They're still growing, and that partnership is still kind of in its infancy. So I think the case for actually America tuning in is this is going to be one of the better 1-2 punches in the league for potentially years to come here. Go get your first glimpse now.
What is the biggest test that Jamal Mosley will face as a head coach in this first postseason in your eyes?
I mean, the good news is there are no expectations, right? I'm sure I'm not the only one who's saying, look, the season's already been a success. They've been at worst middle of the pack in the East with a really young team. They've already exceeded expectations. Jamal Mosley's going to be legitimately on a bunch of Coach of the Year ballots. I don't know how many in the top spot, but there's going to be certainly, I think, a lot of second and third place votes for him, deservedly so. It's his first head coaching job, and this is this team's first taste of the playoffs. So I don't know that I put a lot on, is this a test for Jamal Mosley necessarily? It's more just extending what they've already established, and with a young team, can you keep them on point and playing to their strengths at a time when the pressure is higher and guys start to, occasionally get out of their best habits because it's just more difficult and the pressure is up. So I think it's just about setting the tone for your team and making sure that they just keep doing the things that got them here in the first place.
Now, the moment we've all been waiting for. Are the Orlando Magic real or fake Howard Beck?
Feels mean that we have to keep doing this to teams that clearly have no chance to contend. They're fake, but not through any fault of personnel or performance or character. They're just not there yet. But give them a little time. They'll be real before too long.
I'm gonna go fake as well. But you better be, the rest of the league better be on your P's and Q's in the next few years going forward, because they're not gonna be fake.